In 1987, the Ferrari F40 became the first street-legal car to go 200 miles per hour. In 2005, Bugatti's Veyron hypercar broke the 250 mile per hour barrier. In late 2019, the Bugatti Chiron Supersport became the first production vehicle to ever reach 300 miles per hour. But why has it taken
how much is this in kilometers per hour?
Almost 15
300
years just to go 50 miles per hour faster.
You think about speed as a linear measurement, and I suppose it should be to a human brain, but if you 150 miles an hour before anywhere, if you then step that up just to 180, it's only 20%, but the difference is huge.
That's Andy Wallace, the driver behind Bugatti's 300 mile per hour.
This is crazy.
Aerodynamically, downforce, lift drag, it's all increasing exponentially as a square of the speed. If, for example, you had a car that was capable of 270 miles an hour, the efficiency you need to take that same car up to 280 is pretty massive.
The power needed to overcome a force like drag or air resistance is most intimidating. The force required to push an object through the atmosphere increases.
I don't know what it is, I just don't like the way it looks either.
To translate, a car that needs 200 horsepower to overcome aerodynamic drag at 150 miles per hour would need 1600 horsepower, or 8 times as much, to reach 300 miles per hour. But to build a 300 mile per hour car, it's not as simple as a monstrous engine. First, you need to start with the tires. While they're not the most
I don't know what car I like, I just don't like this one.
As the only part that touches the road, tires are one of the most important. And
Looks
at 300
ugly.
miles per hour, when a puncture or blowout can end in disaster, they mean everything. At that kind of speed, the Bugatti's tires spinning 68 times per second.
I like the look of the
had to
McLaren.
withstand
That's a
7
cool looking
tons
car.
of tearing force, trying to rip them apart. For an idea of just how intense that is, the tires on a Porsche 911 driving full speed
That's a cool looking
only
car.
experience about 3.
One of the things you need to do is you need to stop the tyre from changing shape, because these enormous tearing forces would actually make the tyre quite crowned on the top. The tyres were not totally different, same carcass, same mould as the standard Chiron tyre, but what they did do is reinforce the very last steel band that goes on the tyre before the rubber
yes,
goes
I know
on.
all this.
I think the tricky part was they didn't want to increase the weight of the tyre.
To do this,
Porsche
Bugatti
fine.
chose every engineer's favorite weight-saving material, carbon fiber. It can be 10 times stronger than steel, but 5 times as light. After adding a thick layer under the tires,
there's a time where I didn't even know that carbon fiber even existed. I thought carbon fiber was a pattern. It's just the looks. Carbon fiber was just gray and
carcass, the layer of rubber
square.
below the tread
That's all, dude.
responsible for
I didn't know it was a
absorbing
thing.
shock. Bugatti's engineers had to test it. To make sure the tire could handle 300 miles per
I kept
hour,
calling it
they brought it to Michelin.
chrome. Oh yeah, dude, your hood? Yeah, bro, that's chrome, bro. I don't know. It took me years before catching
Using
on.
the same test bench used by companies like NASA, they found that it could handle up to 318 miles per hour before warping. But even the strongest tire means nothing without the power to spin them.
That's a cool looking engine though.
For an idea of just how much power is needed, look no further than one of Bugatti's biggest competitors in the race to 300 miles per hour, Hennessy. The company's upcoming Venom F5, estimated to reach 301 miles per hour, houses a 6.6 liter V8 that makes an astounding 1,817 horsepower.
That looks cool.
To generate more horsepower, an engine has to burn more gasoline, which requires more air. One of the most common ways to feed more air into the engine is through turbochargers. The Venom F5 not only uses massive twin turbochargers, but it also manages to reach a very high RPM. RPM stands for revolutions per minute, and it measures how fast the engine is spinning. In general, the faster an engine spins, the faster it burns air and gas, and as a result, the more power it makes. A smaller engine with smaller and lighter parts can spin faster with more efficiency, but has potential to wear out quicker from the speed than a bigger engine.
This sounds really dumb. I have so many questions. Guys, listen. This sounds really, really dumb, but you know, people when they start building something, they upgrade it and they make it better, they optimize it or whatever. But could there have been a time where possibly they could have remodeled almost everything and made everything look different, or is this engineeringly optimized?
Yeah. All of this has to be taken into consideration when choosing an engine for speed records. But in the end, the biggest obstacle to 300 miles per hour is air.
Not a prototype, I mean just
the drag or air resistance that a car encounters as it approaches this speed can be compared
It's almost
to
a
what you
philosophical
encounter
question.
when swimming.
The resistance increases in square. So going from 200 to 300 is basically roughly
Guys.
calculated double the energy that you're running into.
Last poll, I promise.
Around 200.
What if at the time the first car wasn't the way it looked? What if it was completely different? People would have upgraded it, modified it, and made it look different, and it would have shaped something that probably isn't the cars that we have today, right? I'm saying with the engines, it's probably the same philosophy. They upgraded and made it better from what it was before, but could it have been possibly completely different, even though it was still engineeringly sound?
Miles per hour, you get more into aeroplane aerodynamics where you're actually compressing the air in front of the vehicle, and it takes different routes
Possible
over the
to tell.
bodywork than at slower speeds.
That's why the goal of engineers when designing a hypercar's body is to eliminate as much drag as possible.
Ugly.
No car does this better than automaker Koenigsegg's
That's a plane.
upcoming Jesko Absolute.
That's a plane.
Based on the company's Jesko hypercar, the Absolute is estimated to reach as
Can't
much
convince
as
me.
330
That's an airplane.
miles per hour. Similar to Bugatti's record-breaking Chiron, it has a longer flattened tail. This makes sure air flows off the car's rear seamlessly. Without it, you have a higher chance of separation in the airflow, which would only add to the drag. The car also improves other forms of resistance. The standard Jesko features a massive rear wing to increase downforce for those tight corners on the track.
It's a cool
The
looking car though.
downforce on the rear wing of a 300 mile per hour car would only slow things down.
Chat,
Ditching the
what do you guys think? I think this looks pretty fucking baller. I think this looks pretty baller. I feel like you could put wings on each side if you were smart enough. Put 2 wings and a jet at the back. This is an airplane.
tail reduced the Jesko Absolute's maximum downforce from over 3,000 pounds to just 330. To keep the Jesko Absolute from flying off the sides of the test strip, that massive rear wing was replaced by 2 small tail fins. They may look tiny, but they redirect the vortex of air generated behind a speeding car that
yes.
creates turbulence. And those sharply cut side vents do more than just
Ugly ass
cool the
rims.
They act like kind of small side parachutes. They actually become kind of fully efficient over 200 miles per hour. And the reason for that, if they work better at lower speed, they would be too restrictive at higher speed. They would be blocking too much.
But as impressive as these automakers' innovations have been, none of it would be possible without the way testing has advanced. An aerodynamic
cool, man.
simulation that took a week to run 10 years ago can now be done in 3 or 4 hours, allowing new solutions to be tested immediately. And while Bugatti may have already been the first to reach 300 miles per hour, automakers are constantly chasing the next record.
Cool video, man. I'm not really into cars, but I kind of like videos like that. Okay, that's a rotary engine. Check it out.